The first paper is about longitudinal effect of early digital experiences on standardized learning outcomes during school career, and the speaker is Giovanni Maria Beatti from the University of Brescia. Giovanni, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I present today a work done with many co-authors stemming from a project that has been financed by the Cariplo Foundation and that deals with the attempt to estimate long-term impacts of early exposure to social media in particular. Now, probably you might have heard that there is a debate ongoing on the media about the impact of early digitalization of youth on standardized outcomes and on depression, and in general about the impact that this is having on younger generation. And basically, the two positions are getting more and more polarized, and on the one side there is the group that says this is just moral panic, this is just the heavy metal of the 21st century, and on the other side there is a now larger. It used to be the smaller group, but now it is the larger group that says that these devices are negatively impacting the life of the people that get exposed to them, especially in younghood. Actually, this debate is mirroring the scholarly debate that is actually taking place. Basically, there are two sets of facts. The first is the fact that we are observing an increase in early access to technological devices, especially social media, and an increase in the screen time that the kids are doing every day. And also, on parallel, there is consistent evidence, so these are uncontroversial facts, about the fact that competencies and IQ test scores are decreasing and that there is a marked decrease in well-being during the last 15 years or so. Now, the scientific debate is about whether these two phenomena are causally related or not. And because the two groups that I told you before exist also in scholarly literature. The first group says this is just correlation or even reverse causation, while the second group, that is those that attribute to social media, especially to social media, a negative impact, says that it is social media, they play a role, especially, and in recent years this is emerging, especially jointly with parenting styles that are very intrusive and controlling, called paranoid parenting. So basically, the argument here is let the kids stay with their devices, because so at least they can get a little bit of freedom in their life from intrusive parents, and the other says intrusive parenting is an issue, but social media is not the solution, it's going to increase the harm that these kids are experiencing. It is a debate that is also quite difficult to follow, because on the one hand, the speed of change of technology, the reach of technology, the adoption and its characteristics is changing a lot. Some years ago, if you talk about smartphone use, it was pretty clear what you were relating to. Now, smartphones has such a vast array of functions that just to say smartphone use is not a meaningful term, a precise term any longer. And on the other hand, this debate generates a lot of confusion among parents and educators, because in the last 20 years, one of the main tenets of international institutions have been, we have to prepare kids for the digital world, and schools were flooded with money. We are talking about billions of euros worldwide spent to build the technological equipment, and now at the same time they're saying this is hurtful. But we have, for the PNRR, we have 500 million euros that we have to spend on technology in school, so let's spend them, because if not, we lose them, but it's hurtful. So this creates a lot of confusion. For our research, we decided to focus on social media for some technical reasons, but also because this seems to be the range of online activities that where there is agreement, at least on one side of the debate, about the fact that it might be harmful, especially if their content is exposed to kids. So we decided to be quite focused in our analysis on what social media do, and quite strangely, there is not longitudinal evidence on it, especially given that those who oppose the early arrival of social media say it's better for, we know for the developmental psychology, it's better to delay the access to these devices. On the other hand, we do not have longitudinal evidence on their effects. And for this reason, we try to address exactly this research question, that is, can we identify the impact of the age at which children start to autonomously use social media on their learning performances over time? This is our research question. And in a nutshell, what we did was to invite schools, secondary schools, to complete a questionnaire that had to be administered to 11th and 10th graders with retrospective questions, and with a lot of questions about how they live with technology, what is their well-being so far, and the way in which they relate to technology itself. We have 46 individual schools, that is plastic for the Italian audience, and about 24 institutions for a total of 6,700 students from 10th and 11th grade. We took their answers and then we linked to INVALSI tests in 10th, 8th, 5th and 2nd grade. This is what we do. And so what we aim at, so this is what we are doing. You see that we also had to select 10th and 11th grader for a very simple reason. They were the only one that did not experience the stopping testing in 2020 and 2021 due to the COVID pandemic. And so we have two cohorts, the 2007 cohorts, who took all the INVALSI tests, and also here at the very beginning, we could longitudinally link them to their early testing, and then we also asked the 10th grader to take the questionnaire for a very simple reason, because like we have the same problem when you make retrospective research, you have the same problem, for instance, of mortality research. That is, you're only interviewing the survivors. And we know that by 10th grade or 11th grade, a good deal of people that probably were the most impacted by technology, that is, people from lower social classes, either have abandoned, or they were repeating grades, or they entered the centri di formazione professionale that are not tracked by INVALSI. So we included the 2008 cohort in order to alleviate the selection problem and to include at least those that repeated only one grade, that in our sample are the 14% of our sample of the 2007 cohort. So our identification strategy to retrieve the impact of the age at which you have social media on learning outcomes exploits basically two facts. The first is that the vast majority of our students had opened a social media account in middle school. And for this reason we have the INVALSI test, or the yellow bars are the INVALSI test, sorry. The 5th grade can be used to match the students based on their INVALSI test and can serve as a sort of pre-treatment outcome. The so-called post-treatment outcome can be considered as the INVALSI 8th grade test. We have a follow-up, 10th grade, but also, and especially in order to get credibility around our identification strategy, we have the 2nd grade test that can serve to us as in order to run placebo regressions, in order to be sure that what we are observing is not in fact driven by the selection of are sampled into the treatment. Now, we will use as a sort of control group the delayers. That is, those that open the social media at the age appropriate for both pediatricians and the Italian law. That is, the first year of upper secondary school. And we statistically match them making 3 different comparisons with those that had an access in 8th grade, 7th grade, and 6th grade. So basically, we perform 3 different comparisons. Why that? Well, according to the literature that point out that these devices are harmful, the dosage matter. And if you consider that, according to recent polls in the US and in the UK, kids in middle school spend on average from 3 to 5 hours a day on social media. It means that 1 additional year of social media means hundreds of hours spending time in something that you would not have spent the time into, basically. Okay, these are the numbers for our comparisons. We focus here on the 2007 cohort. You see that the numbers are lower than the one that I showed you before. Also because in order to have the placebo, to make the placebo test, we have to not use both the 2008 cohort and also those that had the social media before grade 5. Yes, so what we do, again, in a nutshell, is simple, the difference in differences, strategy with, and we use a rich set of sociodemographics and the INVALSI test in the 5th grade in order to match the students based on their, to make the 2 sample as comparable as we can. And we make several robustness tests, but I would skip them because time flies. Okay, already talked about it. All right, so results, very briefly on descriptives. One thing that it's worth stressing, it is that this box plot shows the exposure to technology at the given level, at the given school level, and you see that by the time that the students have a social media account, virtually all of them has a smartphone. Virtually all of them for school or other reasons, they already use tablets, personal computers, they already have messaging apps. And so what we are observing by stressing, by focusing just on social media account is actually a very, very narrow definition of what social media can do. Many of the students that are here actually use, autonomously or not, the accounts of their parents way before having one account of their own. This is what we also observed in the data. We know that we observe the second digital divide in our data. That is, here is the level of education of the parents from lower to higher, and this is where the students open a social media account. So you can see that there is a clear divide between those that have a tertiary degree and those who have not, basically in the exposure to this type of technology. Yes, in this graph I show the effects of social media on competences that are the effect more robust that we can have because we have the longitudinal design for that. These are the results for language. So each of the graphs represent the effect of one comparison. That is, our control group, that is the delayers, against those that open the social media account in 8th grade, against those that open the social media account in 7th grade, or against those that open it in 6th grade. The blue bar is the placebo. Luckily, everywhere the placebo is tells us that there is no selection occurring at that level. The orange bars are the effect retrieved by difference in different estimates of having on the competences, in this case language competences, on the 8th grade. And the green bar, it is the effect that we estimate in 10th grade. So remember that the effect in 10th grade do not take into account the repeaters. on which we observe an effect, by the way, because they didn't took, many of them didn't took the effect on 10th grade. And so, basically what we are observing, it is that the opening of a social media account have a discernible and strong negative effect on language competences. The story that increases over time, and also, unluckily, I didn't put a grid here, but the difference between social in 6th grade and social in 8th and 7th grade, it is sizable. It is sizable. That is, the dosage matters, especially if you start in 6th grade with a social media account. Same results for mathematics, even stronger. In order to give you an idea of the magnitude of this -3 that we observe in 10th grade, that again, probably it is an underestimation, the gender gap is 0.15, 0.20 in mathematics, and the gap between the two ends of the education, of the distribution of the education of parents, that is, students with parents without a diploma, both of them, and students with both parents with a tertiary degree is 0.8. And we observe that social media play a role that is around 0.3. We are presenting the estimates with the matching estimator that provide the most conservative estimates. This, we perform 3 different matching techniques. They all agree. We are showing entropy balancing, that by the way is also the type of technique that gives us the lowest results in terms of effect size. So we are talking about a big effect, a big negative effect. And surprisingly, but according to many people working on the technology field, not that surprisingly, we do not find a big effect for English. We only have in 5th and in 8th grade English, and we do not find much on English. Why? Well, one of the reasons that we are speculating about, but we do not have any data to support that, it is much of the contents that are driven in social media are in English. And so probably it's like if they were making a listening exercise for various hours a day. And so we see that there is only one effect for 6th graders, but not that strong. Now, correlational evidence. For correlational evidence, I mean the evidence on variables for which we do not have a longitudinal component. That is, we only have them via questionnaire. And so we have marks, great repetition, and enrollment to a prestigious academic track, that is liceo classico scientifico tradizionale, and enrollment to any academic track. And what we observe, it is virtually, if we consider any type of academic outcome, also self-perception, pleasure for school, etc., 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 we find negative effects of this, of having a social media, when it comes to anything academic. When instead we come to outcomes related to peers, peer relationship, or here we have social self-efficacy, for instance, we find either null effects or, in this case only, positive effects. And we also are speculating about the reason for this in a moment. This is well-being. We do not find much, but we found a very, very strong effect that it serves also to us as a mediator, that is the effect on how pervasive smartphones are in your life. Okay? What does this mean? The effect on pervasiveness means that we had a battery of items like I use the smartphone before going to bed, I use smartphone when I'm doing homework, etc., etc., etc. And it is highly correlated with competencies, highly correlated with the age at which social media arrives, and and it seems to me they mediate about 1/3 of the effect of the early access to social media on competences along this type of variable. So, going very quickly, so the lack of effect for on well-being, we are speculating the fact that much of the students had social media, opened the social media account during the closures for the pandemic. So in that moment, social media as a way to interact with the people when you were locked into your house probably were not as bad as in other contexts. And also, there is also the paradox that if everybody has it, it's better also for you to have it, because if not, especially in an age like pre-adolescence, where you want to be much in line with your peers, not having it expose you to the risk of loneliness, while those that have it have the negative effect stemming, at least this is our speculation, for the exposure, for instance, to harmful content. So basically, closing up, we are still working on this data. But so far what we can say is that we find strong evidence that social media is impacting the cognitive competencies of the students as measured by the INVALSI test, and in particular their school careers. And thank you very much, and thank you.